Hey, let's get into this, everybody. We know the World Series begins on Friday. Dodgers will host the Yankees for games 1 and 2. And the teams that have appeared in the most World Series. So here we go. And they also have the most future Hall of Famers in the World Series. Now, check this out. I want you to focus on the bottom left, which would be Yankees, Dodgers. They had 10 eventual Hall of Famers. Yankees, Dodgers, on the top right, 1953, they had 10 eventual Hall of Famers. Now, in this series, by my count, and you guys can definitely debate me on this, I have 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 that I think are guaranteed with a possibility of 8.
Locks. Yeah.
The 8 or the 7?
I think the 7 is a lock. If we go through it, we got Mookie, Freddie. Are you even counting Soto yet?
Yeah.
Mookie,
Yeah.
Freddie, Soto.
Yeah.
Kershaw's not on the roster.
But he's on the team.
But he's on the team.
I'm counting.
Judge, Stanton.
Yeah, Stanton.
Well, that's the one I'm not quite there yet.
Well, you better get there. You better get there because it's coming. I mean, he's our best power hitter. He's the best power hitter of his generation. I think Stanton has to be in the conversation. I understand that maybe postseason numbers may not come into play for a guy's Hall of Fame, voting standards, but you can't deny that Stanton has been a powerful force as far as the power goes, since he's broken into the league. And now, yes, maybe he didn't perform up to the level during his Yankee tenure that you would have liked him to, but in this postseason, he's showing what his value is, and he's still extremely feared in the game right now.
The only issue I have is not with talent. It's not with power, 429 home runs. He'll get to 500. My only issue is games played. What do you think about that?
It's been extremely difficult for him to be on the field. And sometimes that happens with guys that are that big and of course, with such a violent swing and everything he does it so powerfully. But it's the bulk numbers that I'm looking at. When you talk about 500 home runs, man, we really going to have to get down to the nitty-gritty and say, is 500 home runs a chewing? Like, if you get 500 home runs in the major leagues, we got to be talking about you being in the Hall of Fame, regardless of the ups and downs that you've had. I know that we have advanced stats, CY, but 500 is 500, man.
Absolutely.
No, I throw those advanced stats out.
Good.
I'm looking at 500. No, I'm looking at 500. Now, you could look at it the other way. Let me just do this real quick. 500, and I'm talking about games played being low, it makes the 500 even more impressive.
Correct. You start looking at, and then now you get into rate stats. Like, Lowe's, I'm sure you get into the at-bats per home run.
Yep.
You start to compare the other rate stats of these other Hall of Famers who were no doubters in their at-bats per homer, and you start to see that Stanton, when he was on the field, he was great.
All right, now I know you got something coming up right here.
Yeah.
On previous World Series and star power in those World Series.
When you think of this star power that's happening with the Yankees, the fact that you have the Yankees and the Dodgers in the postseason, it's because you have so many household names. But to be on this team, what Freeman's looking at when you're signing guys is who is tried and true and proven in the postseason. I need those guys in my clubhouse because our goal is not just to make it to the postseason. Our goal is to win the World Series. So I have to bring in guys like Kike Hernandez that's been there, that I know who I'm going to get. If I'm the Yankees, the reason that you signed Garrett Cole in the first place is because he's proven, he's shown that, yes, he had a bad start against the Nats his first time around, but the second time around, he was able to make the adjustment. Even though the Nats ended up winning the World Series, these are stars that aren't just good players. They're guys who, when the lights get the brightest, they find a way to step up. We're seeing Mookie Betts right now come out of a big postseason slump, but we've seen him shine, and we've seen these guys win World Series. If you guys have won a World Series before, you understand that it takes a certain type of calmness to be able to slow the game down, to be able to come through in big situations, and nobody came through bigger than Juan Soto. Right here, he's taking Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander deep at 20 years old. You're talking about going against the best in the game on the World Series stage. At 20 years old, he was coming through, so there's no doubt in my mind. Right here at 25 years old, he's going to be ready. And then going back to the Dodgers. We're talking about Yankees and Dodgers. Freddie Freeman, hopefully he gets the opportunity to play here. He's been dealing with that ankle injury that he's had when he twisted his ankle. But seeing these guys shine, you need to see Freddie hopefully in the lineup. Hopefully he gets healthy. But these are a multitude of players who have been there. Yes, we went through the Royals series and the Orioles series, and you could tell they were a little inexperienced. when the lights got bright, you could tell they tried to do a little bit too much. In this series, you're talking about the Yankees and the Dodgers, two teams who don't strike out a whole bunch, know how to slow the game down. I see all of these guys stepping up big when the World Series starts.
And you got the two top-seeded teams in each league, and that doesn't happen very often. Here's a tweet from Sarah Langs. Shohei Judge. This will be the 6th World Series between each league's home run leader. Now, just digest that for a second. So the home run leader in each league facing each other. It joins Mantle and Snyder back in '56, DiMaggio and Mel Ott, who doesn't get enough credit, by the way, in 1937, Gehrig and Ott, 36, Babe Ruth and Jim Bottomley in 28. That's a great trivia question. And 1921, did you have Bottomley?
No.
In 21, you had Ruth and George Kelly. So that's how rare this is. Otani and Judge. Carlos, I know you got a lot to say, so say it.
Yeah, welcome to the main event. Man, this is the Thriller in Manila, Rumble in the Jungle, whatever you want to call it. Tweet us. Here's a teletape. As you can see, these two are big guys, 6'4" versus 6'7", 210, the most extremely lean right there for Shohei Otani. Of course, 282 for Judge, an absolute giant. The age is comparable. And look, these guys are both champions. They are where they need to be in the big stage. But let's look at the intangibles. They do it all, right? On the field, they got speed. So you can check that box. It's incredible how these big guys are able to move so swiftly and gracefully. For Judge in the outfield, we've seen Otani go out there and steal 50 bases as well. But then, make no mistake about it, it's the placatas that has us glued to our seats. All right, this is the impressive part. These guys are elite hitters. We're looking at two of the best hitters who's ever stepped on a big league diamond. And we get to watch him in the World Series. This fight is of epic proportions.
And I'll add this, neither has won a World Series. And I don't know if you said that and I wasn't paying attention, but neither has won a World Series, although you could make the case that Otani in the WBC and playing in his home country has won some big-time team awards. Now, the manager of the Yankees, talking about Aaron Boone right now, and I got to say, I'm happy for this man because he has been under pressure for years and years. He spoke today about appearing in the World Series.
Iconic teams, and East meets West. And this is, Dodgers, Yankees, Lakers, Celtics, whatever you want to say. It has that kind of feel to it. And I certainly remember, those times and those teams very well. 7 years now that I've been here, there's always been that occasional talk about Yankees, Dodgers. I think it's going to be, I'm looking forward to all of it. The stars will be out. The eyeballs will be watching. And hopefully we can deliver on a great series. I can tell you Garrett will pitch game one. We're just starting to kind of, formulate our plans and things like that. So we'll see.
Aaron Boone played in one World Series, by the way, in '03. They lost to the Marlins. So Garrett Cole starting game number one. See why? Thoughts? I mean, not a surprise, but what do you think?
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, this is who's made for this moment. And if you're going to win, your ace has to be able to go. The same way I feel about Yamamoto, I feel about Garrett Cole. He had a rough stretch for a little bit, but then he's been able to turn things around in this postseason and keep his composure and prove that he is extremely mentally strong. And he's ready for this challenge. He's been waiting for a long time for this challenge on the World Series stage, and I feel like he's going to step it up. The Dodgers are a tough lineup to go up against. You're talking about a team that really doesn't chase, doesn't swing and miss. So Garrett Cole is going to have to pitch in the zone. He's going to have to challenge some guys. You can't pitch around guys. You can't put the four fingers out for one of them. You're going to have to attack every single one of these guys in this lineup. And it starts off with Otani and Mookie leading it off. So we're going to see what Garrett Cole's made of very early in the game.
Well, we know he's got the weapons necessary to succeed, right? And this is the thing. You can't even, we're talking about defaulting maybe a pitcher when you go up to the plate with your approach because you have such a long season. But in the postseason, you have no time for that. You got to go with what you got that day, and you have to figure out a way to beat the guys that you're facing that evening. And Garrett Cole certainly has the pedigree. You see the experience and how proven he is. So there's no doubt that, there was no doubt for me that he was going to be the one taking the ball game one in the World Series.
There's more pressure, obviously, on a starting pitcher who may only get one start in a World Series than on a position player who is going to get up 4 or 5 times in a game, and then if it didn't work out, the next day he gets. So this is like you walk out there. He's going to walk out there in L.A., and he knows, and obviously he knows, that he's got to be big, and he's got to go long, and he's got to be effective.
I mean, we've seen that all throughout the postseason, though. We saw it with Skubal, on who Skubal was for the Tigers, and what it ended up turning into, what Manaea was for the Mets. You can tell that they're feeling that weight on their shoulders when they're stepping on the mound, but when it's a game one, you understand that you're setting the tone for how the rest of the series is going to play out, especially once you get to the point where you have 3 games in a row. Granted, they'll have 2 games, off day 3 games, but Garrett Cole understands that he's the ace over there. He has to set the tone. It's a huge amount of pressure, but that's what you sign up for, isn't it? That's what you signed the big deal for. That's why you go play for the New York Yankees, is because you want to be the player that gets that moment, gets that opportunity. So if you have the power to be bad and choke and ruin everybody's day, you also have the power to make everybody's day and create these legendary stories. And I think you look at it from the optimistic side and said, I'm going to go out there and try to become a legend in this series.
Matty, that is the best thing about the postseason. And now this is magnified exponentially in the World Series, right? It's now or never. There's no more time. There's no tomorrow. You have to win today. And you're talking about pitchers getting a start, perhaps one start in the World Series, and that's it. And you get that first start. You want to make sure you set the tone and punch first, to go back to the boxing analogy. That's the beauty of postseason baseball, that you have to perform and own the present. There's no tomorrow.
And you were there in 2008 against Philadelphia. And as I recall, the weather was fantastic
Yeah.
in that series.
Awful, the worst ever.